Greetings ladies and mental gents, and welcome to my channel, where I like to make audio narrations of various stories from the internet. In this video, we will be focusing on a story from the subreddit HFY, called Billy Bob Space Trucker, Chapter 4. There will be a link to the original story down below. If you like my work, please consider leaving a tip. There is also a link to that in the description. But more importantly, and as always, I hope that you enjoy. The squad of galactic police arrived at the restaurant with armored support and the form of exosuit-wearing Greslins. Sergeant Tavish blinked at the sight of the unconscious Philas outside of the place. Someone had knocked out the Philas. They were tough. Then, when he stepped inside, he muttered in shock at the sight of no less than a full squad of them strewn about the place. He checked their IDs and noted that they were indeed registered as Galactic Special Forces. They were known for their intimidating battle taunts and vicious close combat tactics. Something had laid them out. Perhaps a Vekish ambush. Rival Philas squad, maybe? The place was empty since the clients and staff had all run away the moment the fight started. He didn't blame them. This place must have been filled with combatants. Technician Kavanaugh, find the security footage. We need to know what we're dealing with a full attack or just an isolated incident. The Greslins and their exosuits spread out through the station and computers scanning for targets in case they were attacked. The technician connected to the security terminal behind the counter and began to play back the video. Sergeant, you're gonna need to see this. Tavish walked over, extending his hand to plug into the port of the back of Kavanaugh's suit so that he could see what the technician was looking at. What am I looking at? It's just a scene for a restaurant. A red box formed around an ugly-looking biped with some rather barbaric-looking clothes. Just watch him, the tech said. Sergeant frowned for a moment. That thing? Why, does he call over some more of his kind? He watched the Philas enter, their fearful battle ball hovering above them. And the ugly one got up, and then Tavish was silent, with shock as he watched the security footage. He grew silent once more. His mouth hung open within the sealed exosuit. And then he saw the figure pick up a bottle that he had the Philas outside with. He didn't have a computer aiming aid. How did he do that? It was dead on target, and the force that of that throw. The creature could throw something like that so accurately without the assistance of a computer and decades of training. Finally, he noticed the other figure, and the two of them ran off for the food. Kavanaugh, zoom in on that one. What is it, sir? Tavish gulped nervously. Few know that figure. Those are Death Wielders, who might possibly be the greatest threat to the galactic government we've ever known. And that's a diplomat with a new Death Wielder. By the deity responsible for the dead, we need to inform the capital. What can you tell me about the ugly one? The technician was already printing out what he could find out about the docking manifest. Sir, from what I've got here, the ugly barbarian is known as Billy Bob Space Trucker. Billy Bob and Emily were eating their meals as he got the long haul back into FTL lane so that he could get out of the area before the local smokies caught up. It's not her, Emily was saying as she snapped up pieces of the space meat on the space bread and had a few nibbles of the space veggies. Billy Bob had to agree with that, and he nodded. The two different kinds of meat were a little odd. It was sort of like having a tri-tip on top of pork. The overall effect was not bad. The fried space potatoes were hot and a little too big, but otherwise not bad. Ish got garmit, he said and chewed, and the makeshift space burger, and then finally swallowed as he nodded as he headed back to the fridge. Hey, can you see if I've got any more beer in there? Emily extended her neck a little as she swallowed, and she shook her head swiftly for a moment, much like the picture bird might. Is it wise to consume alcohol and drive? You shotgun the whole can, and you're fine. She looked thoughtful for a moment, and then rose out of her seat to check things in the fridge. Two of her hands pulling the door open while the other two held out her meal. Just one, and something called Juice Springsteen. Billy Bob nodded at that. Yeah, that drink is for braver men. Just bring me that and you can have the beer." He heard the can crack as followed, and the crinkle of the aluminium as she bit it. He shook his head slowly and thought just about how frickin' cool it was to be traveling through space with a frickin' Space Eagle as his passenger, and one who shotguns beer like a frickin' pro. She walked back to the front, handing him a can in one hand while the other three handed the beer and food. She sat back down and cracked open the Juice Springsteen and gave a long slurp. "How come you drink in small doses like that?" He glanced over and shrugged while balancing the space burger on his lap. "I don't have a mouth shaped like yours. It's more difficult to do what you do." She shrugged, and at that moment, "I like these cans your species uses. It makes it very efficient to consume liquid." He chuckled softly at that and shrugged. "Tell me, Buddy Bob, are you aware of, less than legal markets? It seems to me that like you could use some supplies, and since you enjoy meat and standard galactic refueling stations won't really have what you want." That caught his interest as he looked over at her. "There are species who have markets with meat. From what I've seen, we're the only ones who deal in it, openly at least." Emily nodded at that. "The only ones who do it openly. The space goblins set up stations here and there to deal supplies to those who know where to find them." Space goblins. I love those guys. There always seem to be sort of Xenos that I want to get to know, but they're so hard to get to read on. I guess they have to warm up to you as a species. Emily actually looked surprised. "You've seen them already. I thought your species was brand new." "Ah, we are? I've seen a few back in our home territory. Good drinking buddies, funny stories, good with blowing stuff up. My translator picked up on the word you used, so it seems to be the same species. Well, they normally won't deal with a species until they're well connected, so they must see something special in you humans." "Well, a good deal, probably. So, is there one of these stations nearby?" Emily nodded at that and tapped in the console as she showed him the FTL lane map, where he would need to go. It was about 12 hours along the same lane, so they would just make it there the next day. "Well, it's on the way to Ina 3. "What's that?" "The planet I'm delivering the supplies to." "Right. So, it was what you would do for a job. You just drive and talk and sleep and eat and drive." "Yep. There is also music and going to the bathroom and stuff. Unloading cargo, loading new cargo, arguing with people who hired me. Stuff like that." "Does your pet not need to relieve itself? I don't see any special equipment for it." "Oh, mittens. He goes to the space toilet." "What? Is it intelligent?" "Just enough to do that. I'd once downloaded a translator app from the CNET just to let me understand cats. Virtually everything translates to feed me or pet me, aside from when it really content to say that I am a good slave. Didn't like it too much, so I uninstalled it and talked to him like he's a stupid baby." "I see. Do you read much?" "Only my American Bible." "What's that?" "Let me finish eating before I get the book out. Don't want to stain it." She nodded at that, and they ate the remainder of the meal. Finally, Billy Bob wiped his hands off on his shirt and tossed the plate over his shoulder and into the trash can without looking. Then he reached into his compartment near his feet and pulled out a leather-bound book, that with hundreds of little colored tabs on the side that he placed with certain entries. "Volume 3 is what you're going to want to read. 1 and 2 is also important, but that's the one that really gets at the heart of being an American." "Is it a religious text?" "Yeah, you see, yes and no. It's complicated. Being American is sort of about transcending traditional religion. We think everyone is free to believe what they want to, in a sense. In fact, our Bible states it is solemn duty of every American to spread free religion everywhere. If we see two people arguing about what religion is, it is best to kick the crap out of them until they behave, because really all religions pale in comparison to being American. So they can believe whatever they want and shut the frick up about it." Emily nodded slowly, and she tried to process what he was telling her, while looking at the book. "But it's also a religion?" "Well, sure. We believe in Jesus since he has such a great guy. That's in volume 2. We used to believe that he was the Son of God, but kinda grew out of that and now just believed that he was an early peaceful American who just got killed because everyone was jealous about how awesome he was. Then his spirit was reincarnated in the Founding Fathers, only with violence added in because being peaceful, sure as crap, didn't work out for him the first time. What? Just start reading. See, about 100 years before the contact, we had a bunch of jerkfaces with religious extremist ideas around the world. There was this one guy in charge of a religion called the Pope. This guy was awesome, sort of like the original peaceful Jesus. Told people to get along and be nice, and stop being jerks to one another. But of course, jerks didn't like it, and they killed him. Real dumb freck move, of course, 'cause the peaceful people all got annoyed. Everything went to hell. And then this guy in America realized that we needed to really do something about this stuff, once and for all. Emily began to open the book and read portions of it, and Billy Bob kept talking. So, he made a new American deism, like the Founding Fathers. It's in Volume 3. So we stopped worrying about our own religious calls, and we realized that our religion is to be American. And you can still be American and have a different religion, and you'll be American first, like American Jew or American Satanist. Those guys can party. Bad roommates, though. Anyway, we went on the big old crusade to kill everyone who wouldn't allow free religion and settled stuff real quick. And then we helped to form the world government, but wouldn't join it, 'cause ours was way better anyway. They made Emily look over in confusion. Wait, your clan helped form the first unified government of your planet, and then you just didn't join it? Yep, it may have been okay for everyone else, but not us. But you made it, Billy Bob shrugged. It's hard to explain to non-Americans. If you visit Earth for a while, you'll get it. Mostly, it was because no one was willing to spend as much on defense as we were anyway. Your one clan outspent the rest of the world in defense. Billy Bob grinned wide at that. Yep, that's how awesome we are. She shook her head and then pulled the tabs. Oh, those are awesome bits that I always like. Read them out loud. Emily hesitated as she looked at the print on the page and spoke up. And yea, verily, did the glorious first president, George Washington, in all of his glory and splendor, did deliver unto the face of the wicked King George, who might have the same name, but was totally a crappy George in comparison. The wicked right hook that lay him out flat. Billy Bob was nodding as she read that. Frick, yeah, he did. The man was so awesome we named our capital after him, a state and a whole day. He's on our money, and we made him a monument to show that we had the biggest member of them all. He was a lifetime ruler. No, that's how awesome he was. Frick, I love reading about him and the other founding fathers. The second president was pretty boss too. His cousin brewed beer, so I'm sure there was some serious parties in the White House while he was in office. Emily was shaking her head and continued to read the American Bible in her lap. There's a section here dedicated to how to properly give people high fives and thumbs up. Oh yeah, proper etiquette for all Americans. They spent the next several hours with Billy Bob explaining to her more about the American Bible and how his clan behaved. She seemed dubious, but his emphatic nature made it clear that he was being serious and honest with her. But finally they were both growing tired, and he had to pull off the FTL lane to make sure that they didn't get in any accidents. Checking the map, he made sure that they were well away from the nearby system before pulling out the FTL lane in deep space. Emily was a little surprised, and he spun down his engines and left the Longhorn out in the void. The blur of the FTL lane was behind them as he faced out the cabin at the Endless, nothing in front of them. You really don't get bothered by this sort of thing. I don't mind traveling in small groups alone, but to be out here in the void, where the light is from anywhere. He smiled at that and shrugged. I kinda like it. It's just us and all the stars out here. It's kind of neat to think that the only lights that we can see are likely dead stars. Humans sort of thrive on this. I don't know about the others, but when I pull off the FTL lane and set up asleep for a while, I like to stare out into the nothingness. Sometimes I'll get my spacesuit and just boost out into the blackness and sit there. Sometimes I think I see something out of the void and smile. That made Emily shudder for a moment. What do you do? I smiled back. Emily stared at Billy Bok for a moment and gulped. He just smiled at her. Here, let me show you how my headphones work. You'll be up here for a while, and I think since our sleep cycles aren't the same. He showed her the music system and set up the playlist for her, starting with Dark Side of the Moon, where she offered him the bed. He quickly turned her down. Sorry, but real Americans will always let the lady have the nicest spot and sleep. I'll just sleep in my chair. I do it all the time. He tucked his American flag and human flag down over his eyes, leaned in his chair back and settled in. Emily looked from the Bible in her lap over to Billy Bob. She couldn't believe these humans, or these Americans specifically. If what he said was true, then when humans learned the truth about the galactic government, they'd start a crusade that would set the galaxy on fire. They wouldn't stop until everyone was free. They were perfect. End of chapter. If you enjoyed this story and wish to support the author, the link is down below. If you would like to support this channel, there are numerous ways to do so. They will also be listed in the description down below. But the easiest way to help this channel is to share it, subscribe, and like. And, as always, I will see you all in the next video, and I hope that you have a good one. Cheers!